today I'm joined by Alan Blair-Beaton, who's one of the UK's leading social media experts. And we're going to be talking about social media managers in response to Ryan Holmes' article, Is Social Media Managers Dead? So, Alan, is the social media manager dead?
I truly believe that the social media manager should never have even been born. Yeah, we can go into a lot more conversations about why they're dead and why there's no need for them in the modern world of social networking.
But Alan, did they exist in the first place?
There are people that try to create an industry of work based around lack of knowledge and technological scaremongering, yes, but not really anything else.
But there's always going to be a need for some kind of oversight in a marketing or communications capacity, is there not?
Yeah, and I think because this is a communication tool, I think through mastery of the tool, then it can be brought back in-house to the people who actually are educated and experienced in that type of communication, whether it be PR or HR or business development, and it's not just given to someone who knows what button to press on Facebook.
Yeah, but are we just, when we talk about social media managers, we keep on always talking about the role in the singular. Mm-hmm. By empowering people, are we not creating social media managers, plural? We're not causing the extinction of them, we're actually creating more of them.
Well, I guess the term social media manager it just won't be applicable to modern business in a year or two when it's so ingrained in business culture. We live socially, we buy socially, we spend money socially. So everything is involved internally within a company, and it won't just be down to one person or one department to manage that. That will be segmented into each department, but social won't be called social, it'll just be part of normal comms.
Sure, but I mean, what you would normally have, I would imagine, is someone embedded within a particular department or subset of the company who would take ownership of the social network feeds which go out in the name of that department or subset of the organization. And to my mind, that is, for want of a better phrase, a social media manager.
Well, and then I guess we would have to come up with the person who's in charge of email at a company. Say they're the email manager for T-Mobile UK because they're the person that actually sends out an email to 5 million customers. You'd have to say that you've got a webmaster as well. So, yeah, you probably could.
But then again, you do actually have oversight for those technologies as well. So yes, everyone within an organization has email, but not everyone in an organization is authorized to do, say, a mass email, an email shot. Yeah. In the same way, when you go back to the website analogy, yes, most people now in an organization, if the organization's got anything about it, will be able to upload things to the web through a CMS system. But ultimately, there is a kind of sign-off, isn't there? It's either the webmaster or the head of department who would actually press the publish button, even if someone's created the content. So I'm not quite sure whether that analogy holds.
Well, I'm quite skeptical that you would be able to label yourself as social media manager when all you're using the tool for, or mostly using it for, in a big kind of company's environment is customer service or business development or community. You wouldn't say you're the social media manager. You would say maybe that you're on the Twitter customer service team, or you're on the Facebook community service team, or something like that. So I think you would have to take away a big title like that and make it actually more specific to what you actually do.
But in some ways, it's interesting that you named the social network within that kind of area of responsibility, because to my mind, what you'd want is someone who's sufficiently informed about whatever they need to communicate or engage with, managing a whole plethora of platforms in the name of that subset or that department. So, for example, rather than having Joe being in charge of Twitter for that department and Michelle being in charge of Google+, you'd want to sort of have some kind of coordination or coherence to sort of ensure that everything is gelling well together. It's not necessarily out of any kind of paranoid sort of fear that Joe or Pauline or whatever they're called are going sort of off-piste, but just to ensure a certain consistency and coherence. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, I think when we go back to the context of the Ryan Holmes article, the whole discussion was around a social media manager being an all-encompassing job role that would handle everything, and that these people are, their lifespans are limited because everyone is more absorbed into social at the moment. In the context that you're talking about, it's more that you need to have an infrastructure in place to moderate content before it goes live.
Yeah.
And using a platform like Hootsuite Enterprise, which gives you team functionality, organization, granular setup of teams, social properties, and members.
Yeah.
So that yes, you might have 3 or 4 different departments using a Twitter account, but they're using them for different reasons, so that their job roles and their specs would all be specific and be moderated before it went live. So I don't even know if that person would be called a social media manager, because they're more communications manager or communications director or something like that.
One interesting thing which I sort of take away from this debate is we talk about devolving social media roles, and by a byproduct of that, that's almost creating more accounts on various social networks. So rather than having a singular or 2 sort of Twitter feeds, you'll have several for different departments, which is fine. But in terms of, say, a member of the general public wanting to get in touch with a company or a public sector body, aren't we going to have the issue that we've got with, say, HMRC at the moment, where you call up HMRC and you want some advice and you be given 78 different options? I mean, if you know, that old joke Henry Kissinger used to say about when he was doing diplomacy with European countries. I mean, if I want to do diplomacy with Europe, who do I call? Is there a danger in having a kind of too much of a plurality of an identity for a company or an organization on social networks?
Well, I think when you start to segment social streams, what you're doing, if you can analogize with traditional communications, is creating a new telephone number. There isn't one telephone number for the NHS. There's probably about 10,000 different numbers.
Yeah.
Some of them are regional, some are specific to a venue or a department. But the cool thing about social and Twitter and Facebook specifically is that you can identify which department that person needs to speak to, but then you can also, through tagging or mentioning that department, can bring it into their radar that this person or this customer or client needs to speak with you, and I'm helping direct that. So that's almost in not telesales, but call center capacity, is not blind transferring someone to a new department. You're warming up the call. So
and also I think the advantage is there as well, that you're actually making it public, aren't you? Who transferring the social media interaction with. When you dealing with a call center, say, and they say they're going to transfer you haven't got the foggiest necessarily of where your call's being transferred to. But say if someone mentions another department in a tweet, you can then actually see the handle you should be interacting with. So I mean, that is a big strong advantage.
Absolutely. And then there's also the opportunity using Hootsuite Enterprise and Pro to in your Teams functionality to actually assign that update or message to another team member.
Yeah.
And that's an internal communication to say, hey, Bob, over on the other side of the country, you need to answer this request or this mention. So you can do it in 2 ways: make it public, or you can use other types of social media infrastructure to assign comments and tasks to people based on their department or their job role.
I mean, we've talked quite a bit previously about the benefits of having someone in-house versus someone hiring in a resource from out of house. But doesn't a tool like Hootsuite actually mitigate against the risks of hiring additional resource out of house for social media management, given that you do have that sort of the team functionality on Hootsuite?
Yeah, I mean, I think in it, if you look at Hootsuite on an enterprise level, it completely squashes or just puts out of the picture the need for outsourcing of anything anymore as far as social is concerned, because of the granular level of engagement and the authority that you give the different users functions and conversations. So that's why I think.
But wouldn't some of those users actually might sit outside of the organization? I mean, if you know, by having Hootsuite as a central hub, as it were, and then powering people, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has to be in under the same sort of corporate roof, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you can have multiple, you can be a member of multiple organizations
Yeah.
within the dashboard, and that could be in the context of outsourcing, that could be you as the service provider having 5 or 6 orgs that you're connected to on a Hootsuite dashboard. But the only reason that you're actually doing that is so that you can provide insights into how to better use the product, not necessarily to create content or to handle any communications on behalf of the client.
No. Okay. Good. Good. Excellent. Well, Alan and I are going to have a longer chat on all the various issues we've just touched on now. A link will be appearing on the screen now for that video, and I hope you come over and join us for that longer conversation. Both Alan and my contact details are going to be at the end of this video as well, so if you want to get in touch with us directly, please do so.